What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the entry list for the 2023 Toyota Owners 400 from Richmond Raceway. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. We're going to start by talking about the one car for Trackhouse Racing. This course being driven by Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain is coming off a very strong finish at Circuit of the Americas, had a very solid start to the 2023 season, and currently leads the points. He's still looking for his first win of the 2023 season, but he'll be probably 100% a contender for the win this weekend at Richmond, as he's been strong throughout 2023. I expect him to be a contender this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the two car for Team Penske? This course being driven by Austin Cindric. Now, Austin Cindric's coming off very solid sixth place finish at Circuit of the Americas. It's been an up and down start to the 2023 season for the sophomore driver. He's looking to get his first win of the 2023 season. Team Penske, though, has been historically really good at this track, so that could help Austin Cindric this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, how about the three car for Ridge Racing? This course being driven by Austin Dillon. Now, Austin Dillon's had an up and down start to the 2023 season, more downs than ups throughout the year. I think he's only scored one top 10 so far in the 2023 season. But one thing about Austin Dillon is he historically is pretty good at Richmond Racing, which I think is going to help him this weekend at Richmond. So we'll see what Austin Dillon can do, but he's pretty good at Richmond. Hopefully he'll have a good run this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the four car for Stewart-Haas Racing? This course being driven by Kevin Harvick. Now, Kevin Harvick's coming off the last time he raced here at Richmond. He actually won the race. Kevin Harvick's been historically really good at this track. He's been up front many, many times and has won quite a few races at this track throughout his career. This could potentially be a good opportunity for Kevin Harvick to get his first win of the 2023 season. And I think Kevin Harvick's going to absolutely have a really good chance and a fantastic shot to get it done this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, how about the five car for Hendrick Motorsports? This course being driven by Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson is coming off a topsy-turvy run at Circuit Americas where he finished 14th despite being 2 or 3 laps down. He bounced back to finish in the top 15. Now, Kyle Larson historically has been up and down, a hit or miss at the track. He has one here, which came back in 2017, but Kyle Larson's been hit or miss at this track throughout his career. So I'm not really sure how good Kyle Larson is going to be this weekend, but hopefully he can have a good run this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the sixth car for RFK Racing? This course being driven by Brad Keselowski. Now, Brad Keselowski is coming off a very disappointing run at Circuit of the Americas, where I believe finished outside the top 30. Outside of that, though, Brad Keselowski's had a pretty solid start to the 2023 season, and he's in a much better position at this point in the season than he was last year. Brad Keselowski needs to continue to have some really strong runs, and we'll see what he can do this weekend at Richmond, but I think he's got a good chance to have a fantastic run this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 7 car for Spire Motorsports? This course being driven by Corey LaJoie. Corey LaJoie, compared to last year, he's miles better. He's coming off a very strong 11th place finish at Circuit Americas. And while I don't think he's going to make the playoffs this year, he is in a better position at this point than he was last year. And I think he's going to have his best finishing point position in the points in his NASCAR career. Corey LaJoie's had a really strong start to the year, and with the track being talent-based, I think Corey LaJoie could have another strong run with the Spire Motorsports group. Up next, how about the 8 car for Rich Schultz Racing? This course being driven by Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is coming off and finishing runner-up at Circuit of the Americas. A fantastic run for Kyle. And Kyle Busch has just been really, really good so far in 2023. He scored, I believe, 4 top 10 so far, a win in 2 top 5s this season. Kyle Busch has been pretty good at Richmond throughout his career. RCR has been hit or miss at this track, though, at Richmond, but I think Kyle Busch, with his talent, will help RCR and elevate the team this weekend, and I think he'll be a contender with those 3 tricolors this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports? Once again, we're going to see Josh Berry back in the 9 car this weekend at Richmond. This is a track I'm really intrigued to see how Josh Berry is going to perform, simply because Josh Berry, I think, is a really, really good short track racer. And Josh Berry, the more experience you give him in a cup car, the better he is going to become. His last time he raced, I believe, was just a couple weeks ago. I think he came off a top 20 finish or something like that at Atlanta, got a top 10 at Phoenix. And I believe Josh Berry will contend for a top 10 this weekend with the Hendrick Motorsports group, and I think they're going to give him a really strong piece for this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? This course being driven by Aric Almirola. Aric Almirola has had a terrible start to 2023. His best finish is 16th through 6 races, and he's had a lot of races where he's finished outside the top 20, outside the top 30. But Eric Amarola is pretty good at Richmond Raceway throughout his career. So I think Eric Amarola does have a decent chance and a decent shot to turn the season around. But he's really going to have to turn the season around quickly because this could be his worst points finish he's ever had in Stewart-Haas racing history and his Stewart-Haas racing career up to this point. Up next, how about the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This course being driven by Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin's coming off a very disappointing 16th place finish at Circuit of the Americas, which is better considering we had a lot of chaos near the end of the race. But Denny Hamlin has been great here at Richmond Raceway. He got a win not too long ago. I think back in 2020 and 2021, around those years, he won here at Richmond. And I think Denny Hamlin is going to be a factor for sure to win this weekend at Richmond and get Toyota their second straight victory, trying to basically match up his own driver, Tyler Reddick, by trying to get the win. We'll see what Denny Hamlin can do, and I think he will be a threat this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 12 car for Team Penske? This course being driven by Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney had a pretty disappointing race at Circuit Americas the past week, but luckily we're going to a track where Ryan Blaney can forget what happened at COTA, because I think Ryan Blaney is going to be a factor to win this weekend. Team Penske, like I said, has been historically really, really good at this track of Richmond, and I think he will be very, very quick in that number 12 car this weekend. I expect Ryan Blaney to be quick, and I think that we'll see Ryan Blaney be a factor for the overall win this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, how about the 13 car for Kaulig Racing? This 13 car will be making its NASCAR debut, and it will be driven by Chandler Smith, as Chandler Smith makes his NASCAR Cup Series debut. Now, Chandler Smith did attempt to make his NASCAR Cup Series debut at Daytona, but unfortunately failed to qualify for the race. Chandler Smith, in my opinion, is a really good talent, and I think it won't be long before Chandler Smith is a full-time NASCAR Cup Series driver. Of course, he's going to be making multiple starts with Kaulig Racing this year. I expect Chandler Smith to have a decent run this weekend. I don't expect him to be a contender, but I think Chandler Smith will have a good run this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 14 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? This course being driven by Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe's season can be summed up in one word: very inconsistent and not very good. It's been a strongly start to the year for Chase Briscoe, but it's not been Chase Briscoe's fault. There's been a lot of issues at the team so far and a lot of struggles. Luckily, we're going to a track where Stewart-Haas Racing historically has been really, really good at, and I think that's going to help Chase Briscoe this weekend. I expect Chase Briscoe to be somewhat of a contender. I think he'll be somewhat of a factor for a decent run this weekend, because I don't think he needs to win, but he needs to have a pretty decent run this weekend here at Richmond. Up next, how about the 15 car for Rickwer Racing? This once again being driven by J.J. Yeley. Now, J.J. Yeley has been a decent driver at Richmond throughout his career, and J.J. Yeley is a driver who probably will give Rickwer Racing a solid run. I'm not expecting an 18th place finish like Jensen Button had at Circuit Americas, but I think J.J. Yeley will do his best to get a good run for this team, try to get him in a better position in the owner's points, and continue a decent work stretch for this team this weekend here at Richmond. Up next, how about the 16 car for Kaulig Racing? This course being driven by A.J. Allmendinger. Now, A.J. Allmendinger is coming off a finish outside the top 30, but he was running very, very well at Circuit of the Americas. I think A.J. Allmendinger will do okay. I think Kaulig Racing has been decent, especially on the shorter ovals. I know A.J. has had a little bit of struggles throughout the year so far, but luckily, I think A.J. will have a very, very solid run with the Kaulig Racing team. I think A.J. will have a better run than normal this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, how about the 17 car for RFK Racing? This course being driven by Chris Buescher. Now, Chris Buescher was coming off a very solid top 10 finish at COTA, and the last time we were here at Richmond, he ended up finishing in the top 5 in 3rd place. I think Chris Buescher could have another good run this weekend. Chris Buescher's been very solid to start 2023, and I think he's going to continue that solid start he's had in 2023 this weekend at Richmond. I think RFK is going to provide him a really good piece, really good equipment, and I expect a pretty decent run for him this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This course being driven by Martin Truex Jr. Now, Martin Truex Jr. has had an up and down start to 2023, despite the fact he's in the top 10 in points currently at the moment. But Martin Truex Jr. is great at Richmond, has gotten a couple wins at Richmond. And I think that you're going to see Martin Truex Jr. be somewhat of a contender this weekend, because Joe Gibbs Racing is probably going to bring a very fast piece and a very fast car for Martin Truex Jr. So we'll see what Martin Truex Jr. can do this weekend, but I think Truex could be a factor this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This course being driven by Christopher Bell. Chris Bell's coming off a very disappointing finish this past weekend at COTA, but unfortunately it was not his fault. Before the issues near the end of the race, he was somewhat of a contender for the race overall. But Christopher Bell nearly won this race last year at Richmond, and with it being a very similar track to New Hampshire, I expect Christopher Bell to be not only a contender, but a factor for the win this weekend at Richmond. So I think Christopher Bell is going to have a fantastic run and be a contender this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 21 car for the Wood brothers? This course being driven by Harrison Burton. Now, Harrison Burton has had a terrible start to 2023. I feel like it's been worse this year than it was last year up to this point. And that's very disappointing to say, because I think Harrison Burton does have quite a bit of talent. But sadly, it's been a struggling start to 2023 for Harrison Burton. And I'm not expecting Harrison Burton to really turn the season around this weekend at Richmond, but maybe he'll prove me wrong and have a good run. Up next, how about the 22 car for Team Penske? This course being driven by defending NASCAR Cup Series champion Joey Logano. Now, Joey Logano is coming off a very disappointing finish at Circuit of the Americas, but he's already locked into playoffs, so it really doesn't matter up to this point unless he continues to struggle rapidly. Joey Logano, though, very good at Richmond. I think he will absolutely be a contender, and I think he will be a factor for potentially a great run this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 23 car for 23XI Racing? This course being driven by Bubba Wallace. Now, Bubba Wallace had a very disappointing run at Circuit Americas and was really hard on himself after he got out of the car after an oil line failure, basically saying he needs to be replaced. He's got to keep those emotions in check going forward long term, and I think Bubba Wallace will basically turn the weekend around with a good run at Richmond. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I think the 23XI will do the best to give Bubba Wallace as good of a car as he can so he can have a good run this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This course being driven by William Byron. William Byron has had an impressive start to 2023, and this feels like the year where William Byron is really starting to show his stuff. He needs to continue this for a long time, but it seems like he's really coming to his own and is performing a lot better up to this point than he did previous years. And I feel like William Byron is really starting to become a championship threat, and I think he's going to continue that with a great run this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 31 car for Colleague Racing? This course being driven by Justin Haley. Now, Justin Haley's coming off a pretty little bit of a disappointing finish outside of top 20 at COTA, but Justin Haley's had decent runs on the shorter ovals, and I think that will come into play and factor to helping Justin Haley. We'll see what Justin Haley can do in that number 31 car this weekend, and maybe he'll prove me wrong and have a great run this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 34 car for Front Row Motorsports? This course being driven by Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell's coming off of a not-so-great finish. Didn't finish inside the top 10, but had a good run going at COTA. Now, Michael McDowell's been kind of underrated over the last couple of years, and with this being a strategy race, that could help a driver like Michael McDowell potentially get a great run and a good run with the team. We'll see what Michael McDowell can do this weekend, but hopefully he can prove me right and can do good this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 38 car for Front Row Motorsports? This course being driven by Todd Gillen. Now, Todd Gillen's coming off a very strong top 10 finish this past weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Todd Gillen's a driver who can get the best out of equipment if the equipment is there. I think outside of the road courses, though, Todd Gillen tends to struggle basically because of the equipment he has. But I think Todd Gillen can really turn that narrative for that 38 car and turn it around, and I think that it really could help him this weekend at Richmond. We'll see what happens, and hopefully he can turn it around. Up next, how about the 41 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? This course being driven by Ryan Preece. To sum up Ryan Preece's season, it's been abysmal. It's been terrible, and nothing's going right for him. However, we're going to track very similar like the track like the opening race of the Clash. I really do believe Ryan Preece can turn the season around this weekend. It's a driver-based track. You're going to have good strategy, good tires, short car track cars, long-run cars. I think Ryan Preece will have a good run this weekend. I just got a feeling about it. I think he finally turned the season around this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 42 car for Legacy Motor Club? This course being driven by Noah Grayson. Noah Grayson's coming off a little bit of a disappointing finish, which is a shame because Noah Grayson was a contender for a potential top 10 finish in the middle portion of the race at COTA. I think Noah Grayson can have a good run. He's won at Richmond in the Xfinity Series in the past, so maybe he can use that Xfinity Series experience to really help him out this weekend. We'll see what he can do, and maybe Noah Grayson can have a fantastic and a good run with Legacy Motor Club, and maybe get his first top 10 finish in the Cup Series this season at Richmond. Up next, how about the 43 car for Legacy Motor Club? This course being driven by Eric Jones. Now, Eric Jones is coming off, I think, of a little bit of a disappointing finish at Circuit of the Americas, But Eric Jones had a little bit of a disappointing season. Luckily for him, we're going to racetrack based off of strategy. And Dave Ellens is a pretty good crew chief, in my honest opinion, when it comes to that strategy side of stuff, which I think is going to help this team this weekend. We'll see what they can do, and we'll see if Eric Jones can be a factor for a good run this weekend. Up next, how about the 45 car for 2311 Racing? This is, of course, being driven by the winner at Circuit of the Americas, Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick has really come in his own over the last couple of years and currently has the most wins of anybody in the field over the last 25 races with 4 victories. I do believe that Tyler Reddick is going to continue his great season. The last couple weeks especially, Reddick has been really coming into his own, and it took him a couple races to get used to working with 2311, but I think it will continue for him going down the road and going into the future. I think his luck is going to continue and his success is going to continue. Up next, how about the 47 car for JTG Daugherty? This course being driven by the 2023 Daytona 500 winner, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is coming off a very good top 10 finish at Dakota, which interestingly was his first top 10 finish on a road course in his NASCAR Cup Series career. Just shows you how much he struggled on road courses throughout his career. Still, though, I think Stenhouse will do decent. I don't think he'll do great. JTG's been hit or miss on the short ovals, but we'll see what he can do and see if he can have a good run with the team this weekend at Richmond and see if he can have a good run with the organization overall. Up next, how about the 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This course being driven by the 2021 winner of this race in the spring, Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman's coming off a very strong top 5 finish at COTA, and it seems like he's really starting to come in his own. If they win the appeal on Wednesday, which is tomorrow, he might be the points leader. But I believe that Alex Bowman will be a contender for the win this weekend. Hendrick has brought really good pace on the shorter ovals this year. I think that's going to help Alex Bowman in the 48 team. I'm not saying he's going to be the official winner, but I think Bowman could have a good run this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 51 car for Rick Ware Racing? This course being driven by Cody Ware. Cody Ware is coming off a pretty decent top 25 finish at Circuit of the Americas and was genuinely a lot of the race running inside the top 25. I feel like Cody Ware has potential to always step up and run really good, but it just doesn't seem like the equipment is always there. We'll see what he can do this weekend, though, and see if he can have a good run with Rick Ware Racing in that number 51 car. Up next, how about the 54 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This course being driven by Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs coming off of another top 10 finish, his second consecutive 9th place finish in 2 straight top 10 finishes. He will be looking to get his 3rd straight top 10 finish this weekend at Richmond. And I think this is a track where Ty Gibbs could really show his stuff. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I think that Ty Gibbs could have a good run this weekend. So we'll see what they provide for Ty Gibbs this weekend, and hopefully he can prove me right and have a good run at Richmond. Up next, how about the 77 car for Spire Motorsports? This course being driven by Ty Dillon. Coming this weekend, Ty Dillon only has 1 top 30 finish and has a 23rd place at Atlanta Motor Speedway. It has been a disaster start for Ty Dillon. Meanwhile, his teammate is still, I believe, currently in the playoffs 6 races into the season. It's just been an abysmal start for the 77 team overall. I sadly think that bad luck is going to continue. Ty Dillon's, I think, the worst in full season points for drivers going for the full championship outside of Justin Haley, but Justin Haley's not far from passing Ty Dillon in points. It's been a struggling start to the year, an abysmal start to the year for Ty Dillon. Up next, how about the 78 car for Live Fast Motorsports? There's a new driver in the 78 car this weekend. We got Anthony Alfredo making his first NASCAR Cup Series start, I believe, since the 2021 season finale 500 at Phoenix Raceway. Anthony Alfredo, of course, driving for BG McCall Motorsports in the Xfinity Series, will have dew wipes on his car in this Cup debut for the season. Anthony Alfredo will make 2 starts in the Cup Series, and this is the first of 2. The other start has not been announced at this time, but he'll have dew wipes on the car and make his season debut. And finally, driving the 99 car for Trackhouse Racing is Daniel Suarez, depending, of course, if he gets any sort of penalties or not for the weekend, what happened at COTA. But Daniel Suarez, of course, very talented driver. Of course, we know that. He's decent on these shorter ovals, and I think Suarez could be a contender this weekend if he's in the car this weekend. We'll have to see what NASCAR decides to do for his punishment. We'll see if they suspend him, fine, or whatever they do. But Daniel Suarez could be facing some pretty big penalties here in the coming days. So, that is going to be for the entry list for the 2023 Toyota Owners 400. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Notifications on so you know if I win a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links description below over that, and comment below your thoughts below on today's entry list. Tell me who you think is going to win this weekend's NASCAR Cup Series race at Richmond. Let me know in the comments below. Later today on the channel, we have the NASCAR Xfinity Series race picks for the upcoming race at Richmond. And also, depending if Daniel Suarez's penalties do get released, we'll probably have a special video on that. Then tomorrow on the channel, we're going to have a NASCAR news video, and we are also going to have the paint scheme video likely later in the day as well. And then on Thursday, we are likely going to have the race picks for the NASCAR Cup Series race at Richmond. And we also got a news video coming out Friday and a lot of special content on the way as well that I think you're going to enjoy, including a silly season predictions that's going to be dropping in the coming weeks that I think you're all going to be really excited about. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.